When did protecting your reputation cost you your happiness? I never thought protecting my reputation would cost me everything I loved. Not until the night I watched my fiancée walk out the door, her eyes filled with the kind of disappointment you can't fix with apologies. That was the night I realized the image I'd worked so hard to protect had turned me into a stranger even I didn't recognize. It started years earlier. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew your business before you even knew it yourself. My father used to say, "Reputation is currency here. Once it's gone, you're bankrupt." He lived by that. And so did I. I was the golden boy captain of the football team, top grades, scholarship offers lined up. My teachers called me the example. Parents told their kids be like him. And I played the part, smiling even when my chest felt hollow. When I met Claire, she saw through the performance. Or at least I thought she did. She was different from the girls I'd dated in high school. She didn't care about my trophies or how many people waved to me in the grocery store. She wanted the version of me that came out when no one else was watching, the one who admitted he was scared of failing, the one who hated how much he needed people to like him. For a while, she made me believe I could be both, the golden boy and the real me. But then the cracks started showing. My younger brother Ethan got into trouble, fights, drinking, stealing car parts. Every time he screwed up, it reflected on me. People whispered, if he's such a good role model, why's his brother such a mess? Dad sat me down at the kitchen table one night, his jaw tight. Your reputation carries this family. You don't get to slip. Not ever. Do you understand? His words weren't advice. They were orders. So I started covering for Ethan. When he got caught sneaking beer out of the gas station, I told the owner it had been me. Just a dumb prank. When he dented a neighbor's car during one of his joyrides, I offered to pay for repairs out of my own savings. Each lie felt like swallowing glass, but the alternative was worse, watching the town turn on us, watching Dad's faith in me collapse. Claire noticed. "Why do you keep putting yourself on the line for him?" she asked one night. We were lying in bed, the glow of her reading lamp soft on her face. I couldn't tell her the truth, not really. That my father's approval felt like oxygen. That I'd rather bleed than admit we weren't the perfect family. So I said, because he's my brother. She gave me this look, part tenderness, part worry. "One day, you won't be able to save him, and you'll lose yourself trying." She was right. The breaking point came during my second year of college. Ethan had been hanging around with some older guys who dealt drugs. I warned him, begged him to stop, but he laughed it off. "Relax, golden boy. I'm fine." Then one night, he crashed his car into a tree. The police found pills in the trunk. The officer who pulled me aside at the hospital said quietly, "We could keep this out of the papers. If maybe you say it was you, folks might believe you just made a mistake." My whole body went cold. If the story got out, Ethan would face real charges. But if I took the blame, it would be another strike against the perfect image I'd built. Dad didn't hesitate. "Do it," he said. "You can recover from this." "Ethan can't." His voice was steady, but his eyes were pleading, desperate. He'd already decided for me. I was the shield. I always had been. Claire found out from a news alert. She came to my dorm, shoving her phone in my face. "Tell me you didn't," she yelled. Her voice cracked in a way that made my stomach twist. I tried to explain, but the words tangled in my throat. She stared at me like I was a stranger. "Do you even know who you are anymore? Because I don't." That was the first time she left. Not for good. She came back weeks later, after I promised things would change. But something broke between us that night. Something trust-shaped. And it only got worse. Because Ethan didn't stop. And every time he dragged me down with him, I told myself it was for the family, for Dad, for the reputation I'd spent my whole life polishing until it gleamed. But each lie, each sacrifice, chipped away at the pieces of me Claire had loved. I could see it in her eyes, the slow, painful realization that she was engaged to a mask, not a man. The final collapse didn't come from Ethan, though. It came from me, from a choice I made to protect my name instead of the woman I claimed to love. And I'll never forget the night I made it. The night that changed everything started like any other. A Thursday. I had just gotten back from practice coaching, not playing. My knee injury had killed my shot at professional sports, so now I poured myself into the next best thing, teaching high school kids how to be winners. In a small town, even a washed-up athlete could still be a legend if he kept his halo polished. Claire was waiting in my apartment, sitting on the edge of the couch with her hands clasped tight. I knew something was wrong before she even spoke. "We need to talk," she said. The 4 words no man wants to hear. She told me she'd been offered a job in the city, her dream job. It was everything she'd worked for since college, and she wanted me to come with her. A clean start, new place, no small town whispers, no family drama, just us. It should have been an easy yes, but I hesitated because I knew what leaving would mean. My dad would see it as betrayal. Ethan would spiral without someone to cover for him. And the town. People would say the golden boy couldn't hack it, that he ran away. So I said the one thing that sealed our fate. "I can't." Claire's face crumpled. "You won't, you mean?" I reached for her hand, but she pulled back like my touch burned. "You've spent your whole life protecting an image, protecting them," she whispered. "But who's protecting us? Who's protecting me?" I wanted to tell her I was. I wanted to promise her that she mattered more than anything. But the truth was written all over her face I'd already chosen. And it wasn't her. That was the night she walked out, the slam of the door echoing in my chest like a gunshot. I thought it couldn't get worse. But life has a way of teaching you that rock bottom always has a basement. 2 weeks later, Ethan called me at a.m. His voice was slurred, panicked. "Come get me," he begged. I could hear sirens in the background. My stomach dropped. When I arrived, he was sitting on the curb outside a nightclub, blood on his knuckles and a police cruiser parked nearby. The officer recognized me immediately. "Coach Mitchell," he said with a smile, as if we were old friends. "Your brother here got into a fight. Could charge him with assault. But," he lowered his voice, "if you're willing to take responsibility, we can keep this clean. No record." I froze. Every nerve in my body screamed to let Ethan face the consequences. He needed to. He deserved to. But I could see the headlines already. Local coach's brother arrested in bar brawl. My reputation, my job, my future, all of it could vanish in an instant. So I did what I'd always done. I nodded. It was me. The officer wrote it up, shaking his head like a disappointed parent. Ethan looked at me with something between relief and shame. But I couldn't even look at him. The next morning, the story hit the town like wildfire. My players' parents texted me, "We're so disappointed in you." The school board called an emergency meeting. My dad didn't say thank you. He didn't even say my name. He just muttered, "That's what family does," before turning back to his coffee. Claire didn't call. She didn't text. Nothing. Silence from the one person whose voice could have anchored me. And then, like a cruel twist of fate, my players' parents rallied behind me. "He made a mistake," they said. "He's still a role model." They begged the board not to fire me, and the board agreed. I kept my job. My image, though cracked, still stood. But inside, I was rotting. Because I knew the truth. I wasn't a role model. I wasn't even a good man. I was just a coward who kept sacrificing the people who loved him on the altar of reputation. And then came the moment I can never take back. The one that didn't just cost me Claire, but something much darker. It happened on a rainy night, one I still dream about. Ethan, drunk and desperate, made a mistake so big it couldn't be hidden. And I had to decide, save him again, or finally save myself. The choice I made haunts me every single day. The rain came down in sheets, hammering the windshield so hard my wipers could barely keep up. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat, Ethan's name flashing over and over. By the 10th call, I picked up, my patience already frayed. "Where are you?" I snapped. There was silence for a second, then a choked sob. "I messed up, man. I really messed up." I pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour diner, heart pounding. "What did you do this time?" "I hit someone," he whispered. "With the car." My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might throw up. "Tell me you mean you hit a parked car." "Please, Ethan." But he didn't answer. All I heard was the sound of rain and his ragged breathing. "Where are you?" I demanded, my voice sharp with panic. He gave me an address, a dark stretch of road on the edge of town. I drove like a madman, my knuckles white on the wheel. When I got there, headlights cut through the rain. Ethan's car was half on the road, half in the ditch, the hood crumpled. And on the ground, maybe 20 feet away, a man lay still, motionless. I stumbled out of my car, slipping in the mud, my heart racing so hard it hurt. The man groaned faintly, thank God alive. I knelt beside him. Blood trickled down his temple, but his chest rose and fell. "We have to call 911, I shouted to Ethan. He shook his head violently, eyes wide like a cornered animal. I can't. I'll go to prison. Please. You're the one everyone trusts. If you say you were driving. I froze. His words echoed everything Dad had drilled into me for years. You're the shield. You can take it. He can't. But this wasn't shoplifting. It wasn't a bar fight. This was life and death. The man groaned again, and I felt the weight of my decision pressing down on me. If I called for help and told the truth, Ethan was finished. If I lied, maybe I could protect him, protect us, protect the family name, and my reputation. My hands shook as I dialed 911. There's been an accident, I said, my voice steady in a way that made me hate myself. I was driving. The other man's hurt. The ambulance arrived within minutes. They loaded the man onto a stretcher, his face pale under the flashing lights. The officers took my statement, writing down every word as I spun the light tighter. Ethan stood behind me, his hood pulled up, silent, his eyes darting like a guilty child's. When the officer asked if I'd been drinking, I said no, they tested me anyway. Clean. My lie was perfect. The victim survived, thank God, though he suffered a concussion and a broken leg. He couldn't remember much of the accident. Lucky for me. The town buzzed with gossip the next day. Did you hear about Coach Mitchell? Whispers followed me everywhere. Some looked at me with pity, others with disappointment, but not suspicion. No one suspected Ethan, because why would they? The golden boy had fallen, and the story was too good not to believe. Dad called me that night. You did the right thing, he said. His tone was proud, almost relieved. You protected us. But Claire, she wasn't fooled. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, rain still dripping from her hair. Her eyes were sharp, full of fire I hadn't seen in months. Tell me the truth, she said. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. She stepped closer, her voice low and trembling. It was Ethan, wasn't it? I swallowed hard. Claire. Her hand flew to her mouth, like she already knew the answer. Oh my God. You're going to destroy yourself for him. For your dad. For this stupid image you're trying to protect. It's not like that. I tried, but the lie tasted sour even as I said it. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. It's exactly like that. You're choosing your reputation over doing the right thing. Over me. I reached for her, desperate. Please, Claire. She pulled back, her voice breaking. I can't love a man who doesn't know who he is. And just like that, she was gone again. But this time, I knew she wasn't coming back. Still, I clung to the lie. I told myself I could survive losing her, so long as I kept my reputation intact. But I didn't realize that reputation has sharp edges. And the deeper I tried to hold on to it, the more it cut me open. The real trouble came 2 weeks later, when the victim's family started asking questions. And that's when I realized someone else knew the truth. And they weren't going to keep it quiet. It started with a knock on my door. Not a gentle one, the kind that rattles the frame and makes your stomach tighten before you even answer. When I opened it, a woman stood there, mid-40s, hair tied back in a messy bun, eyes red like she hadn't slept. I recognized her immediately, the victim's sister. You, she said, her voice trembling with rage. You're the one who hit my brother. I swallowed hard. Ma'am, She stepped closer, jabbing a finger at my chest. I know it wasn't you. My blood went cold. What are you talking about? I tried to steady my voice, but it came out thin. My brother remembers pieces, she hissed. He said the driver was yelling. Young, panicked. He remembers a hoodie. You weren't wearing a hoodie, were you, Coach Mitchell? I froze, my mind scrambling. How much had Ethan told her? Did he confess? She leaned in so close I could smell the stale coffee on her breath. I'm giving you a chance. Tell the truth, or I go to the police. And then she left, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled in its frame. For hours, I sat in the dark, my head in my hands. I imagined the headline, "Beloved coach lies to protect criminal brother." The shame, the fury, the end of everything I'd built. My dad's voice echoed in my head, you don't get to slip. Not ever. That night, I drove to Ethan's apartment. He opened the door half drunk, his eyes glazed. What did you tell her? I demanded. He blinked slowly. Who? The victim's sister. She knows it wasn't me. Ethan smirked, the kind of smirk that made me want to shake him until his teeth rattled. Relax. She's bluffing. She doesn't know anything. You can't keep doing this, I snapped. You're going to ruin both of us. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You think you're some kind of martyr, huh? Taking all the hits for me? Guess what? Big brother, you're not saving me. You're just making it easy for me to screw up again." I felt something snap inside me. I grabbed his shirt and shoved him against the wall. "Then stop screwing up," I shouted. His laughter was cold, mocking. "Face it, you need me to be a disaster. Without me, you don't get to be the hero. You don't get to be the golden boy who sacrifices everything. You're nothing without me." His words hit harder than any punch. And deep down, I hated how much they rang true. I left before I did something worse, slamming his door so hard it echoed down the hallway. But his smirk stayed with me, like a stain I couldn't scrub out. The next morning, I found an envelope taped to my door. No name, no return address. Inside was a single photo of my brother's car the night of the accident, crumpled hood and all, and scrawled across the bottom in angry handwriting, "Tell the truth, or we will." Panic clawed at my chest. Whoever sent it had proof. Maybe the victim's sister, maybe someone else. Either way, it was only a matter of time before the lie unraveled. I called my dad, my voice shaking. "We have a problem." He was calm to calm. "Then we fix it, like we always do." "Dad, they have a photo." "Then you deny it." He cut me off. "They can't prove when it was taken. They can't prove who was driving. You keep your mouth shut." Ethan keeps his mouth shut. And this goes away. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But the dread in my gut told me this wasn't going away. Not this time. Later that week, the school board called me in. They'd received an anonymous letter. No details, just a claim. "Coach Mitchell is lying about the accident." I sat in that boardroom, sweat prickling my neck, while they asked me questions in soft, careful voices. "Were you really driving? Why were you out there so late? Can anyone confirm your story?" I lied through every answer, my smile tight, my voice calm, the golden boy mask back in place. And somehow it worked. They nodded, reassured, but I could feel it, their doubt lingering like smoke after a fire. When I got home that night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You can fool them. You can't fool us." And attached was another photo. Ethan, at a bar, laughing, beer in hand, taken the same night as the accident. I felt my world tilting, the walls closing in. Whoever was behind this knew everything, and they weren't stopping. The question was no longer if my reputation would survive. It was how much I'd lose before the truth came out. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the glow of the streetlight cutting pale stripes across my walls. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that photo, Ethan at the bar, carefree, oblivious. Proof, undeniable proof. By morning, my chest felt like it had been hollowed out. I drove to my father's house, the same one I grew up in, the place where the walls were plastered with my trophies and newspaper clippings like a shrine. He was at the kitchen table, reading the paper, coffee steaming beside him, like nothing was wrong. "Dad," I said, throwing the photo onto the table, "it's over. They have evidence." He didn't even flinch, just glanced at it, then back at me. "So what? What do you mean, so what? This destroys everything. They can prove Ethan was out that night. They can prove I wasn't the driver." He set his paper down carefully, folding it like a man with all the time in the world. Then he fixed me with that cold, unblinking stare I'd known since childhood. "Listen to me. People don't care about the truth. They care about the story. And you are the story. You are the good son, the golden boy, the hero. Nobody wants to believe otherwise. Do you understand?" I wanted to scream, to shake him, but the terrifying part was he was right. The town didn't want their idol to be a liar. They wanted me to be exactly what they'd always believed I was. "But what if they keep pushing?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Then we push back harder." His tone was sharp as glass. "You've come too far to let this crumble. Do you want to throw away your life, your career, for your brother's mistakes?" I looked at the photo, my stomach twisting, and I realized that wasn't asking me to protect Ethan anymore. He was asking me to protect him, the family name, the legend he'd built around us. When I left his house, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely start the car. A week passed. The anonymous texts kept coming. More photos, more threats. A video clip, this time Ethan stumbling out of the bar, swearing, fumbling for his keys. Time stamped less than an hour before the crash. I confronted him again, burst into his apartment without knocking. "You're going to ruin me," I shouted, slamming the video onto his table. Ethan looked pale, hungover, his hands trembling as he lit a cigarette. "I didn't send those. I don't care who sent them. They exist. And if they get out, I'm done. We're done." He dragged on the cigarette, exhaling smoke with a bitter laugh. "You know what your problem is? You care too much about what people think. You're so busy protecting your precious reputation that you can't see it's already gone." The words hit like a punch. I stormed out before I could hit him. 2 days later, the victim's sister cornered me again, this time in the parking lot after practice. She shoved her phone in my face, the video playing on repeat. "You still want to tell me you were driving?" she spat. "I know the truth. Everyone will know the truth." My players were nearby, their eyes wide as they watched us. Parents lingered by their cars, whispering. I felt the ground open beneath me. I forced a smile, voice steady even though my insides were collapsing. "You're mistaken," I said calmly, handing the phone back. "That video doesn't prove anything." Her face twisted with disgust. "You're pathetic, hiding behind lies while my brother fights to walk again." The parents whispered louder. My players avoided my eyes. For the first time, I felt their trust slipping through my fingers like sand. That night, Claire showed up at my door again. Her eyes were softer this time, but heavy with disappointment. "Why are you doing this to yourself?" she asked quietly. I laughed bitterly. "Doing this to myself? I'm trying to hold everything together. My family, my career, my whole damn life." Her gaze pierced through me. "No, you're holding onto an illusion, and it's killing you." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out, because deep down, I knew she was right. After she left, I poured myself a drink, then another. My reflection in the darkened window stared back at me, hollow-eyed, broken. Not the golden boy, not even a man I recognized. And that's when my phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. This one was different. No photo, no video, just a single sentence. "Tomorrow, the whole town will know who you really are." I dropped the glass, watched it shatter across the floor. Because I knew, in that moment, everything I'd been protecting was about to burn. The morning came with a knot in my stomach so tight I could barely breathe. My phone buzzed nonstop before I even got out of bed. Texts, missed calls, notifications piling in like an avalanche. Something had broken loose. When I opened Facebook, I saw it. A video posted to the town's community group. The same clip of Ethan stumbling out of the bar, swearing, fumbling for his keys. The caption, "This is the real driver from the accident, not Coach Mitchell." Thousands of views, hundreds of comments. Some were angry. I knew it. "Lying coward." Some were confused. "There has to be an explanation." And some were defending me. "Not Coach. He would never lie. Someone's trying to smear him." But the damage was done. The golden boy mask had cracked wide open, and everyone was watching. By the time I got to school, the board was waiting. They didn't even bother with small talk, just ushered me into a conference room where the superintendent sat stiff-backed. The video paused on the big screen. "Do you want to explain this?" he asked. His tone wasn't curious. It was cold. I opened my mouth, ready to lie, ready to spin, but the words stuck in my throat. My chest heaved, my palms slick with sweat. For the first time, I couldn't summon the mask. I wasn't driving," I whispered. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. The superintendent leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Are you admitting you lied? To us? To the police?" My head dropped into my hands. Yes. The fallout was instant. Suspension. Investigation. Reporters sniffing around like vultures, knocking on my door, calling my phone until I turned it off. My father raged, storming around his house like a man possessed. "Do you know what you've done? You've destroyed us. You've destroyed me." And Ethan? He vanished, disappeared into the shadows while I stood in the fire. The victim's sister wasn't satisfied, though. She wanted blood. She came to every hearing, sat in the front row, staring at me with eyes that burned holes in my skin. And I couldn't blame her. Her brother had almost died, and I had tried to erase that with a lie. Claire reached out once. A single text. "I'm sorry it had to happen this way. Maybe now you'll finally see yourself." I stared at it for hours, my thumbs hovering over the screen. But I never replied. What could I say? She'd seen the truth long before I had. The investigation dragged on for weeks. My father hired lawyers, tried to pull strings, called in favors with men he'd coached, men who owed him. But it didn't matter. The story was too big now, too loud. One night, I found myself driving out to the stretch of road where it all began. The ditch where the car had landed, the trees still scarred from impact. I sat there in the dark, headlights off, rain misting on the windshield. And I asked myself the question I'd been avoiding since the beginning. Who was I really trying to protect? My brother? My dad? Or the fragile little boy inside me who couldn't stand the thought of people seeing him as anything less than perfect? The answer was a knife to the gut. It was never about Ethan, never about family. It was about me, my fear, my vanity, my need to be admired, to be loved. And in protecting that, I destroyed everything else. The next day, I made a choice. I walked into the police station, sat down with the detective, and told them everything. The lies, the cover-ups, the pressure from my father, every detail I'd hidden. His pen scratched furiously across the paper. When I finished, he leaned back, eyes heavy with something between pity and disappointment. You know this doesn't erase what you've done. It just means you'll finally face it. I know, I said, my voice hoarse. But maybe it's the first honest thing I've done in years. The weeks that followed blurred together courtrooms, depositions, reporters shouting questions I didn't answer. My father stopped speaking to me. My mother cried every time she saw me. And Ethan, he stayed gone. The town had made up its mind. To them, I wasn't the golden boy anymore. I was a fraud, a liar, a coward. But as much as it hurt, a small part of me felt something I hadn't in years. Relief. Like I could finally breathe without carrying the weight of the mask. But that relief didn't last. Because the truth, once freed, has a way of cutting deeper than the lies ever did. And soon, it wouldn't just cost me my reputation. It would cost me something I could never get back. The sentencing hearing was packed. Reporters in the back, townsfolk filling every seat, the victim's family in the front row. I sat at the defendant's table in a cheap suit that suddenly felt 2 sizes too small, sweating under the fluorescent lights. My lawyer leaned close, whispering about strategy, about mitigating factors, about probation versus jail time. But I barely heard him. All I could focus on was the victim himself. He'd walked into the courtroom on crutches, his face pale, his legs still braced. He avoided looking at me, but I felt the weight of his silence more than any words could have hurt. When it was my turn to speak, I stood, hands trembling. My voice cracked on the first sentence. I lied, I said. I lied to protect my brother, and in doing so, I hurt all of you. I betrayed the trust of this town. I betrayed the kids I coached, and I betrayed myself. Murmurs rippled through the room. My father sat rigid in the second row, jaw clenched, eyes blazing with fury. For him, I wasn't redeeming myself. I was dragging his name through the mud. But for once, I didn't care. The judge sentenced me to a year in county jail, reduced for cooperation, plus community service. My lawyer squeezed my shoulder like it was some kind of victory. But as the bailiff led me away, I felt nothing but emptiness. In jail, there was no golden boy, no trophies, no admirers, no whispers about reputation. I was just another inmate, stripped down to orange and numbers, and strangely, there was freedom in that. But the nights were the hardest. Alone on a thin mattress, the weight of silence pressing down, I replayed everything. Claire's eyes filled with disappointment. The victim's sister hissing, "You're pathetic." Ethan's smirk when he said I needed him to be a disaster. And my father's voice, cold and sharp, "You've destroyed me." Letters came sometimes. From my mother, shaky handwriting telling me she loved me despite it all. From old teammates, a mix of anger and pity. Even from a few of my players' kids who wrote, "We thought you were different." Claire never wrote. I didn't blame her. The months crawled by. When I got out, the town hadn't forgotten. Whispers followed me everywhere. Parents pulled their kids closer when I walked into the grocery store. Job applications vanished into silence. Coaching? Forget it. Nobody wanted a liar around their kids. One night, I found myself sitting in my truck outside Claire's apartment. I hadn't planned it. My hands had just driven me there, like they remembered the way better than my mind did. Her window was lit. Shadows moved across the curtains. I thought about knocking, about begging her to see me, to forgive me. But I didn't. Because what would I say? That I was finally honest now? That prison had taught me a lesson? That I wasn't the same man who chose a reputation over her love? She deserved better than recycled promises. So I drove away. The victim recovered slowly. I saw him once at the hardware store, walking without crutches. I wanted to apologize again, but the look he gave me stopped me cold, an expression that said I was a ghost he wished had stayed buried. My father never forgave me. At family gatherings, he spoke through gritted teeth, if he spoke at all. Ethan was long gone, drifting from city to city, leaving chaos in his wake. Mom told me she still heard from him sometimes, always when he needed money. I didn't ask for details. I couldn't bear to. So where does that leave me? Alone, mostly. Working odd jobs, keeping my head down, learning how to live without the constant glow of admiration. It's quieter this way. Colder, but quieter. And yet, sometimes late at night, I still feel the old ache, the desperate hunger for approval, the need to be seen as perfect. It gnaws at me like a phantom limb. But then I remember the cost. Claire's tear-streaked face, the shattered trust of my players, the year in orange, the way I destroyed everything that mattered just to protect a mask. That was the moment I finally understood the truth. Reputation is fragile. Love is fragile. But the lies you tell to protect them, they're the sharpest blades of all. And once they cut deep enough, nothing you do will ever heal the wounds. The worst part? Sometimes I wonder if I'd make the same choice again. Because even after everything, a part of me still misses the golden boy. The years that followed blurred together in a strange kind of exile. I was free technically, but freedom feels different when the world you return to no longer wants you. The town had a long memory. Kids who once idolized me crossed the street when they saw me coming. Parents whispered behind their hands in the grocery store. At church, the pew beside me always seemed to stay empty. My father stopped inviting me for holidays. My mother tried, bless her, but it always ended the same awkward silence. Forced small talk, my father glaring at me like I was a stranger who'd trespassed in his home. Ethan never showed. He was out there somewhere, still causing trouble, still dragging his chaos behind him. And part of me hated him, but part of me envied him too. Because he didn't care about reputation. He didn't carry the weight. He just burned everything in his path and kept walking. Claire, she married a few years later. I saw the photos online once, her in white, smiling in a way I hadn't seen since the very beginning. The man she married looked solid, kind. The sort of man who would never ask her to sacrifice herself for someone else's image. I stared at those photos longer than I should have, until my chest ached and my eyes burned. Then I closed the laptop and poured myself a drink. I told myself I'd stop checking her profile. That was a lie too. Work was a patchwork of odd jobs: construction, landscaping, warehouse shifts. Nothing steady, nothing permanent. Employers didn't want a scandal attached to their business. So I learned to live small. One-bedroom apartment, second-hand furniture, bills paid in cash. Reputation stripped away. I became invisible. And yet, invisibility brought something I'd never had before: honesty. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to pretend. I didn't have to be the golden boy. Nobody expected me to be perfect, or admired, or even good. I was just another man hauling boxes, sweating under the sun, scraping by. And though it was humiliating at first, there was a strange peace in it. But the ghosts didn't leave. Some nights I woke up sweating, hearing the victim's sister's voice hissing in my ear, "You're pathetic." Other nights it was Claire's tearful whisper, "I can't love a man who doesn't know who he is." Most nights, though, it was my father's voice, cold, unyielding. "You destroyed me." And maybe he was right. I used to wonder when exactly the scales tipped. Was it that night in the rain when Ethan called me? Was it when I first lied for him as a teenager, telling the shopkeeper I'd taken the candy bar? Or was it even earlier, back when Dad first told me reputation was everything, drilling it into my skull until it was the only truth I knew? Sometimes I think my life wasn't ruined by a single choice. Sometimes I think it was ruined by all of them, piled one on top of another, until the weight finally crushed me. People say you can rebuild, that redemption is always possible. Maybe they're right. But redemption doesn't bring back the people you've lost. It doesn't rewind the years you've wasted. It doesn't put love back into the arms you let slip away. All it gives you is a quieter conscience. And mine is quieter now. But it's not clean. Because in the end, protecting my reputation didn't just cost me Claire. It didn't just cost me my career or my town's respect. It cost me the only thing that ever really mattered: myself. And that's the cruelest part. Because once you lose who you are, There's no getting it back. That was the day I stopped recognizing who I was.